Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking, we've been getting small all month.
We've been small all month.
We've been way down here.
We've been getting so tiny, you guys. So small. So small. And back.
And back to normal,
back.
and we're back to normal. We've been getting small all month, and the reason for the season is here. We were talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. So the third installment of the Ant-Man movies, if you're not keeping track. Or if you are keeping track.
I am keeping track, and I will say, I feel like we do this with a lot of off the tops. I think the naming scheme of this makes so much sense. Like, not that the Marvel movies use a lot of numbers lately, but Ant-Man got so kind of messed up by being Ant-Man, then Ant-Man and the Wasp.
They had to go off the rails.
You couldn't call this Ant-Man 3.
Yes, I understand.
It can't be because it's Ant-Man and the Wasp 2.
Yeah.
But it's Ant-Man 3.
Yeah.
So they're a little different. But also it's Quantumania.
It's Quantumania. It does make it weird that they kept Ant-Man and the Wasp :
Yeah,
I understand
she's there.
that she's there, and you know there's probably contractual reasons for that. But it would be like Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ant-Man and the Quantumania, or something like that. Ant-Man and the Kang.
Ant-Man and Kang, yeah.
Yeah, so
I like.
something like that could have worked. But either way, it's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It's the third Ant-Man movie that we're going to be talking about today, and since it is a new movie, as we do anytime that we cover new stuff, and our regular listeners, you know this. If you're a new listener, first of all, welcome.
Yo!
Welcome to the party, pal.
What's up?
What?
We don't usually talk like this.
We don't usually get real down here, but that's us getting small. But welcome to the party, and anytime we talk about a new thing, we give you a spoiler-free review. So in case you haven't seen it yet, maybe you want a taste of our review before you go to the theaters to check it out. Maybe you want to know whether or not you should go. Maybe you're on the fence about seeing it. Whatever your reason might be, we're going to give you a spoiler-free review. Then, once you hear the theme song, that is going to be when we enter our spoiler-filled section of the podcast. So let's start with the spoiler-free review. Let's start with the simple question. Diana, did you like it?
I liked it fine. It's so very far from a love, and it's not a hate, but it's definitely like the least of the Ant-Mans. It is well below the first two, which are movies that I absolutely love. I think I'm even going to be kind of more kind to it than it deserves because I love the first two Ant-Mans. No one's like bad, but the movie's just nothing. It's just stuff happening. There's no emotional resonance. There's no big laughs. There's no good choreography. It's just kind of there. Most of the movie is. There's like every now and then there's like a chuckle because of course Paul Rudd is here. So there's a little bit of a laugh and he's doing his best, but there's a huge disconnect between all the characters. There seems to be no one connecting on any level. There's nothing that's pulling my heartstrings or making me laugh. There's no stakes that I'm concerned about. It really is just a bunch of stuff. And I can't emphasize enough that it's just stuff happening that doesn't really matter. Like, the stakes are as small as the film, as small as the characters get. And small stakes can work, because Ant-Man 2 has incredibly small stakes. But, like, they just don't work here, because the characters don't seem to care about the stakes either. And I would think my other biggest kind of complaint about a thing that would improve it that really bothered me is that I think Michelle Pfeiffer is the lead of this movie and Paul Rudd is not, and neither is Evangeline Lilly, who's the other title character, and that's crazy choices happening all over the board. So it's fine. It's enough. I'll never watch it again, but I've rewatched the first two Ant-Man movies several times and they're so good. So this is quite a huge disappointment to see from like Peyton Reed, the returning director. So I'm a little disappointed and sad. So I liked it fine. Andrew, did you like it?
I'm very similar to you. I think this movie is offensively bland.
Oh, bland is a great word. Yep.
So bland, it's upsetting, but it's not actually offensive. Like, at no point am I like, I hate this. It's just everything is happening, and I'm like, this has all been done before. It's very uninspired. The colors are muted. Everything's kind of boring. The stakes are low. It's all green screen. There's a couple chuckles and guffaws, but like barely. it's watered down Paul Rudd. It's like you ordered Paul Rudd and the restaurant was like, we only have Diet Paul Rudd. And you're like, I guess I'll have Diet Paul Rudd.
And the glass is small. It's not even a full can.
Not even
it's a mini can of Diet
Paul Rudd.
It's
one of those
Rudd.
like little chubby cans or whatever. So yeah, it is just offensively bland, and also something we've seen before, even in Marvel movies. I would say beat for beat that this is like Ant-Man and the Wasp, Little Rock. Like, it's just Ragnarok on a smaller, shittier, more boring, less colorful scale. And that is exactly, I think, what this movie is.
Oh, I was actually getting, like, lesser Guardians feels myself, due to the mix of races and aliens that are happening.
I get that. Definitely, like, has a Guardians-esque vibe. But either way, just kind of a bland flavor of a flavor. And nothing that... It doesn't have any of the things that made the first two Ant-Man movie work, which I know are rarely anyone's like favorite Marvel movie, but we've discussed it before and we think they're highly underrated Marvel movies. We think that they like succeed at doing what they do, which is just being playful and unpretentious. And it's like, oh no, a Thomas the Tank Engine is coming at me, a big Pez dispenser. They're fun, and this one has no fun doing any of the things that it does.
There's no fun, but it also didn't switch to being dramatic and heart-filled, which even the first two Ant-Mans have some heart to them. Like, you like feel for these characters. And yeah, this one is just nothing. I will say, like, a minor highlight is Jonathan Majors as Kang, who is very, very good, but, like, not given, like, even enough to do.
I would say even then, he's not as good as he is in Loki.
He was way better in Loki. I totally agree.
And
he only had like one scene in Loki.
And it was one better directed, filmed. The scene that he has in Loki is better than anything he's given in this movie. It's obviously the same actor with the same capabilities, and none of it is his fault in this. But he's not given anything nearly as good as what he was given in the Loki TV series. So yeah, I'm with you. It's just all very bland. And I also agree with you that weirdly, Michelle Pfeiffer is the lead of this movie. Forget Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. This movie could be called Janet Van Dyne and the Ensemble Cast, because there's a lot of scenes that Scott just isn't in.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I guess Hank and Janet were also the Ant-Man and the Wasp, and they might be the title characters if you really crack down on who does what in this film.
Huh.
It's not necessarily Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne.
You know what? You make an argument that is technically correct, and I think if the movie knew it was trying to do that, I might even be on board with that.
An old switcheroo. It's like, oh no, this is the OG Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yes.
Because they do the most stuff.
Yeah, and probably have the most lines and screen time. I think you might be right. Wow. Huh, that's not a bad perspective. And I wouldn't have minded if they leaned into that a little bit more.
I would have, because I always want more Paul Rudd.
I understand we always want a little more Rudd in our life.
I don't want a diet small Paul Rudd.
We want a little bit more Rudd in our life. Okay, so we're both of the same opinion on this movie, which is that it's pretty bland.
It's pretty bland.
It's pretty bland. It's not really noteworthy. I don't think it's anything. I think it's a very skippable Marvel experience.
I'm going to say the most skippable, because our next question is, can it be spoiled? And I don't think it can.
I think for one laugh, and that is it.
Oh, yeah, all right.
And I think that's it. There's one laugh that you will enjoy if you don't know it's coming. And if you know it's coming, you'll be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that is the maximum that I think you can be robbed of in this experience.
I completely agree, because like Kang's in the trailers, so you know Kang's there, and then some other Kang stuff happens that you can totally guess if you've seen Loki. Like you know all the Kang of it all. So yeah, there's literally nothing to spoil. So it is completely skippable if you don't feel like seeing this movie, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. I love you, Paul Rudd, so much.
I know. I wish it wasn't the case, but I don't think it can be spoiled, and I think it's a very skippable Marvel experience.
Yeah, very little tie-in, very skippable film.
Yep. Okay, so that's going to be the spoiler-free section. Before we get into the spoiler-filled section, we want to thank our sponsor of today's episode. We want to thank our wonderful friends. You know them, you love them. It is tpublic.com.
All right, now we get to talk about something that didn't disappoint us, which is tpublic.com. They will send you you can get wonderful t-shirts and hoodies and tank tops with designs by indie artists who are getting fair commissions for their work. So if you have something you love, you're going to find a nerdy design by someone else who loves that thing that you can't find anywhere else. And you're going to be like, whoa, that's so cool.
Very, very cool, very fun, very unique, independent stuff. The one that I am liking this week, I am liking one that is called The Illusionist, and it is a Mysterio, the Spider-Man villain Mysterio, and it is the illusionist done in the style of like a tarot card, and I think it looks really cool. And one of the things that I like about a lot of the designs on tpublic.com is that like depending on the shape and the structure and how the design is done, sometimes it pops on certain things more. Like sometimes you might be like, that design really works on a hoodie, or maybe like, oh, this is one for sure for a tank top. The illusionist one, the Mysterio one I'm looking at, it really works on a phone case. I love it on a phone case.
I can see it on your phone, yeah.
Phone case, it pops. Sticker, it really pops. So I like the illusionist for its like vertical slice. It works really well, that tarot card shape.
Yeah, that's a really fun one. So mine this week is it's one of our designs. This is Johnny is Fine, and it's Johnny Storm, and he's in the cafe from the This Is Fine dog that's on fire. And Johnny is saying this is fine because it is fine because Johnny Storm is just constantly on fire. So this is his favorite cafe.
He's having a perfectly fine time there.
A perfectly wonderful cup of coffee. Everything is fine.
You think this is like a themed cafe? It's the Fire Cafe.
This is his cafe, I assume. I think this is it. There's a lot happening on this shirt, even though it's just a straightforward little joke about a meme.
Well, that's very fun, and I love that. And if you like either of the designs that we just mentioned, you can find that in our storefront, which is at tpublic.fromsuperheroes.com. That is teepublic.fromsuperheroes.com. If you go ahead and shop through that store link, you'll see the ones we just mentioned. You'll see ones that we previously mentioned on the podcast, ones that we've never mentioned but we just think are generally cool. But also when you go to that link, you can search anywhere on the site. Any designs that you find, if you make a purchase, it will support the artist who designed that particular piece of art, and it will also directly support this podcast as well. So be sure to shop through our link at teepublic.fromsuperheroes.com. And thank you, TeePublic, for your support.
Thank you so much, TeePublic.
And now let's get into the spoiler-filled section. Let's talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. All right, we have seen Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We are in the spoiler-filled section now. So, spoiler warning, ahoy, even though there isn't really that many to do.
There's not much to spoil.
Just a real bland experience, huh?
A real bland experience. I will off the top give it this positive, which we are very grateful for. It's a flat 2 hours. You never see this anymore.
I kind of thought that all Marvel movies were 3 hours now, and I was just kind of sad about it. I like that every Ant-Man movie, a flat 2.
It's exactly 2 every time, and I love that from Ant-Man. So even if the movie's kind of bland, you're like, you know what? I'm not exhausted. I'm not bored. I haven't lost my entire day to this thing. So, like, we left and we were like, it was fine, but you're also like, you're not too tired, and you didn't even have to pee that bad when it was over. It was an incredible film.
If this was 2 hours 15, it would be downgraded from bland into, fuck you, you've wasted my time.
Yeah, they would just be that little bit more.
Exactly 15 minutes away from me being like, fuck this movie. But right now I'm like, this was a little bland. And that's where I'm at. Although, when the movie started, I did have hope. Because going into this movie, we had been talking to each other about the marketing campaign for this movie, which did make it seem quite bland.
Quite bland and boring. They seem to think that, like, the effects of, like, Ant-Man falling apart when he's big and stuff and the probability storm were, like, selling this movie. And it's like, do you know what anyone likes about Ant-Man? It's the jokes. He's small, and that's funny. It's funny that he's small.
He's littler than a person typically is. And that's a thing we enjoy about the man the size of an ant. But all of the trailers were like, all trailers mentioned, like, you need to experience it in IMAX experience in 3D. And their catchphrase was, experience the dynasty. And immediately we did not have faith in this movie due to its marketing campaign to be like, experience the dynasty is not Ant-Man's vibe.
No.
Like, the first Ant-Man movie had a trailer that was just Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas playing drums on their knees and progressively screaming the word ants at a larger volume. And that is Mwah, chef's kiss, the perfect ad for Ant-Man.
It perfectly encapsulates the first movie, Ant-Man.
Yes, and Experience the Dynasty in IMAX is not the ad that gave us faith, but then this movie started, and the first 10 minutes, almost exactly 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes is exactly what a third Ant-Man movie should be.
Yes, the first 10 minutes is just Paul Rudd. It's in San Francisco. It's daytime. It's so bright. It is cheery. It is wonderful. The vibes are good. Paul Rudd is narrating the movie by reading Scott Lang's own biography, so it's not even just a narration, it is just him reading the biography that's creating the narration, and so it's really funny. There's a great tie-in joke later that he's listening to the audiobook version in his car. So there's just a really great energy pop off the top of this, and I totally agree. I was like, oh no, it's gonna be okay. This feels like Ant-Man.
Yeah.
It feels like Ant-Man. He's
Him
taking
waving
photos
at
with
people,
dogs.
taking photos with too many dogs, being told, "We love you, Spider-Man."
Classic Ant-Man problems.
Really, really playful and fun. And Rudd being Rudd.
Rudd being absolutely Rudd. And the only time in the movie where Rudd's like the lead?
I would say so.
10 minutes is the only part where Paul Rudd is the lead of this movie. And then as soon as we get to the Quantum Zone, Michelle Pfeiffer is the lead of this movie. And Kang, once we meet Kang. The first 10 minutes, really fun. Baskin Robbins callbacks, love those. Always love and also like we get some Baskin Robbins later, which is actually a little bit funny as well.
Sadly, none of the old crew. I guess he's just cut the ex-cons out of his life.
This is one of the biggest faults of the film, the lack of the crew. So Lewis and David Dastmalchian and
T.I. plays the, I forget the character
Dave?
name.
I want to say Dave.
Yeah.
That crew is so funny and such a good back and forth energy and such a good energy for scenes when Paul Rudd's not in the room of like still having comedy around. And they're very sorely missed. So yeah, they're not even in the opening. Where are they? How did you abandon your crew, Scott Lang?
And also abandoned Judy Greer as his ex-wife and the mother of Cassie. Cassie's mother just seems to have gone.
Yeah, did she get snapped and not come back?
Yeah, did the snap go wrong?
Where is she?
Yeah.
So she also wasn't in Endgame when he like comes to get Cassie twice. Like he comes to Cassie's house twice. No Judy Greer. So no Judy Greer here. Like, did you just not want to like give these people half a second of screen time?
It felt it felt like a slight. But either way, other than that missing, the vibes were right. Fun, charming,
right.
Him having written a book, him kind of being like, my wife's weird, right? Like him acknowledging how crazy all of this has been and that he is just a dude.
He's just a
dude and very much dude energy dude.
He's just a dude who has a suit that anyone can wear. And he knows it. He's like, no, I'm not special. So I'm just going to soak it in.
Yeah, and he has to play the idiot for the most part, but he has a master's in engineering as well, which is another thing that I feel like they've kind of written out of this character, that like he can do some stuff. Like he doesn't understand quantum physics, but he can like repair basic things. But I feel like they're kind of edging away from that.
They definitely are, because the first movie, like not the point, but like he's a thief, but also like there's scenes where he's like fixing the Ant-Man suit, and he's like he completely understands how it works. Apparently, I don't think he understands Pym particles, because a huge plot line in Endgame is that he can't make more. But I think he knows how the suits work in conjunction with Pym particles.
I would agree
he can
with
make
that.
more suits if he needs to.
Yeah.
So like that's so like the first 10 minutes is fun. First 10 minutes is an Ant-Man movie.
Fun vibes, and I felt like I was proven wrong. I breathed a breath of relieved air, being like, oh, you're a movie that had bad trailers. Your marketing department, and it happens sometimes. A marketing department sometimes just blows it. They pooch it up. It's just brutal, and it makes a movie look bad when it turns out to be great. And I'm like, I was wrong. This is going to be a great ride. And then once we get into the Quantum Zone, I feel like everything just really is just a wet fart.
It really is. I mean, from the effects, which are just like, they look fine, but it's so dark. Nothing pops. Like, you're in a new universe. Why is there no light? why does no light exist in the quantum zone? Like, why can't I see anything? I can't see what the Ant-Man suit is doing during choreography. Like, it is impossible to tell what's happening most of the time. And, like, this is a constant Marvel problem. They underlight every special effect for some reason and never make them pop in an interesting way. They don't design things that are like, wow.
With the exception of, I would say, like Ragnarok. And
Ragnarok popped.
There are a handful of exceptions in there, but this almost felt like it was kind of declining to like early DCEU level of gray.
Yeah, gray.
To the point when Cassie, the daughter, reveals her costume. And it's like, I have a costume, Dad. And she puts on the costume for the first time, and they've just avoided a piece of danger. And she kind of like gestures to her own costume to be like, compliment the costume, Dad. And does like a little like pirouette, like a little like pose to be like, this is the costume. And I literally squinted at the screen because I'm like, I actually can't see fucking any detail on this costume. I can't tell if it's blue or purple, and it looks exactly like everything else. And you could be wearing the background. You could be wearing a skin tight green screen suit, and oops, they just green screen the background over your body, and I literally would not visibly be able to see the difference. It is incomprehensible visual gibberish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just no pop, and they go to the quantum zone so fast, and they're there the entire movie. So yeah, it's 10 minutes of a fun, brightly lit, really like
San Francisco romp,
family-oriented romp movie for 10 minutes, and the second you get to the quantum zone, you're like, oh, we're in the trailer. This is the trailer. It's dark and there's no laughs and there's no storyline and nothing is happening.
And everything's trying too hard to be cool, but has no meaning behind it.
Oh man, everything's trying so hard, huh? Everything is like, can you believe that we made a blob monster? Can you believe that like this whole world is CG? And I'm like, yeah, I can. I don't know where to look and I can't see anything.
And none of the actors are responding to any of it. Like at one point there was like a big tree that just seemed to be like farting gas clouds that were creating their own galaxy. And Michael Douglas just walks completely past it because it doesn't exist and inspires no sense of wonder. And then Michael Douglas is just like, where do we get jackets to blend in? I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about right now? This is a visual mess. Even the cool things are so cool, they're nothing. It also, it very visually reminded me of, and this will be the last time I take like a drive-by shooting at the DCEU. But it felt like, remember Man of Steel, that opening segment on Krypton? Where it was like, Krypton has crazy shit going on fucking everywhere.
There's a dragon.
Yeah, exactly. Jor-El rode a dragon to work today. Is that anything? And it's like, it's not, unless it is something. Is it anything?
Is it anything?
Why is everything something?
Which parts are supposed to fill me with awe?
Yes.
You can't say literally 100%.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be 2 hours here. So I need to know where the awe is.
So that's where I'm at. Krypton in Man of Steel was very much the quantum burst for me.
Okay. See, I think Metropolis is worse than Krypton. Because Krypton, I mean, Russell Crowe made Krypton work. But that's a different topic.
That's a whole different
topic.
That's a whole different thing.
We're not talking about Man of Steel right now.
We are not. We're talking about Ant-Man. How about Cassie? How do you feel about the new Cassie and like the daughter being a pivotal part of this movie to a large extent?
This is hugely polarizing for me. Because I actually think the new girl playing Cassie, I mean, I love the old Catherine Newton. The old Cassie was so good, and I'm so upset that she didn't get to reprise the role. Catherine Newton is also very good. So, like, it's a win-win, but, like, God, other Cassie was so good and had such a great rapport with Paul Rudd.
I think that the child who played young Cassie was straight up a comedic improviser who was crushing it. And Catherine Newton, I think, is a very good kind of charming action hero type where it's like it's a different version of this character. It doesn't quite blend seamlessly, but I do think she is doing a good job of what she does.
I think she does a good job. She is very who plays Ellie in the video game Last of Us?
Ashley
Johnson?
I think it is Ashley. It is Ashley Johnson.
Oh, okay. Big her energy.
Gotcha.
Very Ashley Johnson energy. And I'm very conflicted because I feel like I like Catherine Newton and I feel like I like Cassie, but I also don't like her at all. it's really strange. Like, I love old Cassie, so I don't know if that's part of it, that I'm like, where's the old Cassie? I would like this a lot more if it was the other actress. But I also like agree with her. I'm like, yes, get in good trouble with the cops for good reasons, save people when they need saving, start revolutions. Like, I agree with everything she does, but also at the same time, I'm like, I wish you weren't here. I don't like you.
Yeah.
And I feel bad about it. I can't even quantify the feelings.
I can.
Okay.
Here's actively why I don't like, why I'm not enjoying the writing of her character, at least. Because I like 50% of the writing of her character. I am with you. I love the versions of her that is her father.
Yes.
The fuck the system, I'm mad, but for the right reasons. And I am willing to get into a bit of trouble, which later I will regret, but I don't regret it in the moment. I'm like, this really works. And then like, kind of dialed up to 11 a little bit because of the blip. I love that writing. I don't like how much she shits on her dad. And the way everyone kind of shits on Scott, I really don't. It really makes me very uncomfortable that, like, I kind of liked it at dinner when they're just like, oh, did you write a book? I haven't heard about it. I'm like, that feels like gentle ribbing. They're poking you. But then there is this attitude of like, yeah, you saved the world, but what have you done lately, you fucking fuck? And I'm like, all of you are way too mean to him. And I actually don't like this general theme and perspective of the movie, which is you are only defined by what you've done today, and you never get to rest, and you never get to relax, and there's no such thing as self-care. And it is just like, you could do the greatest thing in the world, but if that was last week, fuck you. And I really don't like how people treat Scott, and that aspect of Cassie is kind of what puts a bad taste in my mouth, because I so much like this other aspect of Cassie that they've written.
I can completely agree with all of this. Yeah, they're so cruel to him. Like, he is not exaggerating when he says he saved the world. He gave the Avengers the time travel technology that allowed them to undo the blip and then kill Thanos. Like, this is a huge feat that he went through. He went through all the fights. He went through all the trauma. He was stuck in the quantum realm for a bit. Like, you deserve to take a little time off. I'm sorry that he hasn't actively stopped a mugger in a few weeks or whatever it is you expect him to do. Like, also, the world seems pretty great. Like, isn't he helping with Hope's save the world through shrinking technology stuff? Like, he's at the office all the time.
He seems very supportive of Hope. To be like, I'm not good with financially running a nonprofit, but I love that you are, and I support you in everything that you do. He does nothing but love and support everyone in his life.
And it seems like the world's like getting pretty good. Like, she's making more forests with the technology. She's making more food with the technology. I'm like, okay, I think things are fine. I mean, coffee costs $12, but it does. That's just what coffee costs.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's really mean. Like, she's acting like he's turning a blind eye to stuff. Like, he's just walking by crimes that are happening and choosing to do nothing all the time, when really he's just like, I need a little break.
Yeah.
I had a big couple of years.
I didn't plan on doing any of this ever. And in fact, I would even argue that, like, in the first two movies, part of what made Scott Lang a really wonderful and relatable character is that he was doing these big, grandiose things when they would crop up and when they would be in front of him, but he wasn't actively seeking him out. But he was day to day a kind human being.
He is a kind human being. He went to dinner with Jimmy Woo in the little montage in the beginning. Like, he said he would at the end of Ant-Man 2.
In the first Ant-Man movie, he doesn't want to do crime again. He's an advocate for ex-cons being able to get work, and he just wants to work a normal job and be a good father to his daughter. And he does these incredible things when they're thrust upon him, and he doesn't scoff at it. He's not necessarily the reluctant hero, but he's trying to be kind on a day-to-day. The second movie, he's very worried about his business, and he's like, I've got 4 ex-cons, and he's even yelling at Michael Douglas when Michael Douglas is like, we've got to go into the miniverse to get my wife. And Scott Lang has to be like, I have 4 ex-cons whose employments rely on me. Do you have any idea how hard it is for ex-cons to get jobs out there? This is very important for reintegration into society and for stability. Like, he is just a day-to-day kind man. And that's the good thing about him. And in this movie, it really treats it like that's the bad aspect of his personality.
It is. And then I also think the movie does a disservice by having Cassie in the quantum realm with him. And they're like always together because as you said, Scott is the kind of guy who, when he sees trouble, will help. Like, if it's right in front of him, he will definitely call to action, go do it. But because his daughter's with him, and his daughter's like a teenager, this isn't like a Hope and Hank scenario where she's a grown adult. His focus is getting her out of there safely. So, like, it does seem like he is a bad person sometimes. He's like, this isn't our fight. He's like, I'm trying to get my teenage daughter out of a war zone. And his priorities are right, but for a father. But the movie's like, hasn't he gotten shitty at his job? He's not helping these people. I'm like, he needs to get his teenage daughter out of a war zone.
Yeah.
This is absolutely he's a regular man.
Yep.
This isn't his fight. Because if she wasn't there, he would be like, yeah, we're going. We're saving you all. This is cruel. This is mean.
Yeah, she looks at him with disappointment because he's not Captain America when he knows he's like, yeah, I play a function on that team.
Yeah.
I am not the be all end all.
I am not a standalone hero.
Yeah.
I don't even have a weapon. I don't know how to throw a punch properly. Kang's going to beat me up with his fists later.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a brawler in any way. My shrinking technology gets broken, and I get the shit kicked out of me. That's who I am, Cassie. I can't fight a war.
Yeah.
But the movie does not want to acknowledge that it's just okay to be like, I help when I can.
Yes. I'm going to help my daughter, and then maybe I will regroup and figure out what to do. I don't need to rush headfirst stupidly into trouble.
Yeah, but so it really is like now Cassie gets to do all these things because he is focused on just saving her, and like the movie doesn't forgive him for that.
Yeah, yeah. And I rewatched 2 earlier this week, and he has this line into when he's talking to young Cassie, where young Cassie's like, you need a partner when you're out there. And he responds by talking about Hope and being like, yes, I would love for her to be out there with me, but Hope's doing her other thing. And like the kid Cassie is disappointed and says like, I want to be your partner. Are you saying I wouldn't be a good partner? And he says, you would be the best partner in the world, and I would be a terrible father if I allowed that to happen.
Yes!
And that should be but this movie is literally the exact opposite of that great line from the last movie, which is, no, you're a terrible father for trying to protect your daughter.
Yeah, and like she obviously hasn't been trained. Like she can't do the small punch, get small, do a punch. He's trying to train her on the fly. Like we saw his montage in the first movie. It took weeks for him to learn how to use this suit properly in a way that can impact a fight and stuff. So he's absolutely in the right, and he's a really good dad. And by Cassie being there, he just doesn't get a chance to be a hero.
Yeah, I agree. It's very strange. This movie is just not from the perspective of Scott.
No, and also like that line is very much like that would be a great callback. Like I'd be a good partner if they actually worked as partners.
And they never do.
Literally at no point in this movie does Scott and Cassie work as partners. Like they run away from danger a few times together. They don't fight Kang together. They don't go into the MacGuffin together. He goes in with Hope instead. So like they're not partners.
Now they're separated for a large part of the movie, and that's it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even just from like the love aspect as well of Scott and Hope, who is the couple that we're rooting for. At the end of the movie, they get separated, and it's like, oh no, Scott's going to be trapped here. Hope comes back for him, and he's like, I love you, Hope, and they kiss. And I actually forgot they were a couple because they hadn't had a scene together since the dinner at the beginning of the movie. So it was so strange. I was actually kind of jarred. I was like, wait a minute, who the fuck are you? I forgot. I forgot who these characters were. The movie had become so murky and just gobbledygook by the end of it.
That's fair, because when her coming back for Scott, like from a plot perspective, if she comes back for Scott, then this is a movie about them reconnecting or being partners. Like if that's the final act of a film. Mm-hmm. But like they've been separated this whole time. This movie has been about Hope trusting her mother again and learning to connect with her about what she went through in the quantum realm. Mm-hmm. Her and Scott have had no relationship whatsoever in this film. So for her to just jump back through at the end and then for him to be like, I love you, like there's been some kind of arc where they weren't in love, didn't happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely was not there.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of mess going on here.
it's a mess.
Now, there's some stuff that like is structurally a mess, but moment to moment fun. I think that like all of these revolutionaries or freedom fighters, I think that most of them are fun, giving good voice performances, pretty fun character design. Cannon Face or whatever that character's name might have been. I'm calling him Cannon Face.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to find him on the IMDb.
Yeah, the jelly goopy guy, the tough lady, the dude who could read your mind. These were all really fun characters that were underutilized, and this was where I really felt that the movie was trying to be Ragnarok, to be like, check out this kooky, quirky group of freedom fighter revolutionaries who are trying to escape the oppressive system that they're in. And I'm like, these aren't Korg and Meek. And also, they're not threaded through. They're really only in the second act and kind of disappear for a bit.
They disappear for a lot.
But when they're there, they're fun. They are fun.
When they're there, they're fun. Again, I actually didn't get Ragnarok vibes. This just felt like they were like, what if there were Quantum Realm versions of Scott's friends? And not that they're like one-to-one versions of his friends, but like these are replacing the friends who didn't come back. These are the comedic tag-alongs. But they are just gone for such a large part of the movie. They form no bonds with Scott or Cassie, except maybe the female leader. She was actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
Gentora.
Yeah.
She actually like bonded with Cassie and actually had a nice relationship and was a total badass.
Yes.
Real Michelle Rodriguez vibes.
Very, especially in the voice.
Yeah,
the voice in particular. Katie M. O'Brien, phenomenal job. Really, a really phenomenal job of that character. One where I'm like, would have liked you maybe even a bit more of this.
I could have done with a lot more of everyone, because then William Jackson Harper, known as Chidi from The Good Place, was Quaz. He was the guy who could read minds, and he was fun. He was having fun with Paul Rudd.
Yes. Yeah, that was one of the few moments where I'm like, oh my God, I'm seeing an improviser improvise with Paul Rudd.
Oh shit, they're doing it.
Oh my
God.
God.
Doing it.
Improv is happening. I love this.
And they're gone.
And oh no, they're gone.
They're gone.
But that was a good moment of seeing someone actually play with a comedic actor. Yeah, so I was on board with that, and the goo was fun as well.
The goo was fun as well. I will say, like, yeah, I'm gonna pop a few positives in here as well.
On me.
I think this is a sort of jump to the end, but I think this moment was awesome when Hank shows up with the ants and just walks down the platform like in his duster coat and looks like a badass. This is actually one of the reasons I might think the title is Hank and Janet, because like he's an Ant-Man. He brought ants to the fight. Yeah. Hank is the only Ant-Man in this film. When Kang is like Ant-Man, I'm like, I think he means Hank, the guy who brought a bunch of ants and saved the day. And it's a really cool moment. It's actually like the only moment where I was like, that fucking ruled. Because everything else is just like, I'm big, I'm little, I punch. I'm like, I've seen that a million times. There's no scale here. You're in the quantum zone. It's silly. But that moment with Hank was like a little bit earned and like kind of cool. And I'm like, the ants did do it.
Yeah, the ants building their own society was a bit much.
Okay, the ants experiencing 1,000 years in a day was completely unnecessary. What the fuck was that all about?
That was a real Deus Ex Machina that they slipped in there at the end.
Hank can just control ants. Why did that have to be a thing?
So they would have ships and technology, I guess.
There's ships everywhere.
I guess.
They stole 3 ships throughout the course of the film.
It is truly insane, I agree.
They experienced 1,000 years in a day.
And they developed an advanced society.
I don't think your brain's big enough to do that.
No, I think ants...
Even given 1,000 years.
I think as they are, ants are 1,000 years old, and they have not developed a techno-based society.
So that was very silly, but the moment was very nice for
The
Hank.
moment was cool. Yeah. I do think that Hank was pretty cool in this and actually did a pretty good job. Michael Douglas, I think, generally is a really good kind of straight man comedic person and kind of plays that pretty well in a few different parts of this movie.
I like that he's having fun with Hank, but not too much fun. Like,
yes.
He remembers that Hank is a serious man with serious ideals, but he knows he's in a silly movie about a shrinking guy. So he's like, I will be serious, but I will also have fun with this. And I'm just like, kind of just like here for the ride.
Yeah.
I think he's having a good time.
Yeah, I like it. And I like Michelle Pfeiffer in this too. I think she's doing a good job of Janet. I think that the writing is trying to kind of overwrite her to compensate for, not having her for 2 movies. But I think that Michelle Pfeiffer is the right casting and really does a good job with the role.
I mean, everyone's good. It's really like,
yeah.
I think it's like writing structural problems and then like dark CGI
and bad visuals
are the biggest problems of this film. Like these are all returning cast members we like.
Yes. Yeah.
Except for Cassie. But like we like her fine.
Yeah.
But
It's not on Cassie. It's not. It's definitely not on that actress.
Not on
for any
Cassie.
of the complaints. Yeah, it is mostly script, structural, bland visuals. Just no sense of scale as well, which like I know kind of ties into the visual thing, but like it's just nothing feels big or small at any point.
Nothing feels big or small. I felt absolutely infuriated at one point because they're in the quantum realm. So it's like
I wonder if we're gonna have the same.
I hope it's the same moment.
Let's
I
see.
hope we were infuriated in the same moment. They're in the quantum realm. They are smaller than an atom right now. They are so tiny. And there's a scene where Cassie gets big and she's giant. And Scott is like, Cassie, you're so big. You're a giant. And they both do that thing where they're giant man. And they're like, oh, we need an orange slice because it makes you really tired to be giant man because it stresses out your body or whatever. But I'm like, you're still the size of an atom. What are you talking about? You're not giant at all.
Yeah,
you could just use your little things to leave the quantum realm.
You're like you're 2 millionths of a nanometer is like your current. You're not giant.
You're not giant.
And
Scott shrank like 5 times to get to the center of the MacGuffin.
Yes, this is the exact same moment.
Excellent.
For me. The
Love
exact
this.
same moment. You can't. You can be giant because giant is a relative term, but the exhaustion of like, oh no, I got too big. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You're incredibly tiny and you got less tiny, but you were giant for a moment relative to the environment that you're currently in. And then the thing that additionally frustrated me about that is that not only did you not get so big that you're dizzy and need orange slices like Ant-Man did, but there was nothing else in frame.
Yes.
So it was making the heavy footstep sounds. They were using the sound effect, and it was Ant-Man, and it was Scott and Cassie, and they're like, you were so big, wow. And there's nothing else there. They are on the plains, a perfectly flat to the horizontal surface of nothing, with no other characters, not a cart, not the gooey guy, not one of the like little robots with the blue faces. There is nothing around them to provide any sense of context that they are even giant in contrast to the environment that they are in.
Yeah, because this is a totally foreign land and they didn't put anything, like it's not like you can see a tree in the background like you can in San Francisco when Scott gets giant. And you're like, oh, I can see that he's the size of a building and I know how big buildings are on Earth. But yeah, he's just walking around and I'm like, I don't know. Are you big right now? Because sometimes Hope's on his shoulder, but Hope's also been shrinking every now and then. So I'm like, are you regular size and Hope's tiny right now? Or are you big and she's regular size?
And either way, this is miserable and I don't care.
Either way, it's not fun.
It's not fun.
It's not fun. Yeah, that moment made me so mad. You're so big and I need an orange slice. Like, oh, you're so small.
You're so small and nothing else is here.
Like,
nothing is happening.
You should be so big if you're going to be big for the quantum realm. Like,
Yeah.
if when you get to our level, you can be 40 feet tall, like, be 40 feet tall down there. I don't know if it makes you leave the quantum realm if you go be 40 feet tall, but, like, he could be 8 buildings tall.
Yes.
And that would be like, oh, no.
He should be able to be
fucked.
relatively large. And then even when he got large and he was like rampaging through the city and knocking buildings over, sometimes they had no sense of scale because it was like some of these buildings are 2-story walk-ups and some of them are 100-story skyscrapers. But they also look like gibberish and not like buildings you've ever seen. So you don't know which is which. So I never know what size he is. Incredibly frustrating.
Incredibly frustrating.
However, another positive, to flip it back to a positive.
Flip it back.
I sincerely loved, and this was the one spoiler warning that we were going to give, that we kind of like said that could be spoiled as a joke. I loved MODOK. For those of you who haven't seen this movie, which might be many of you, it's very skippable. MODOK is in it. And when I say MODOK is in it, if you're not a comic book fan, you can Google search an image of MODOK. It's a giant head in a weird floating chair. And they make
Tiny arms and legs.
tiny
Don't
arms
forget
and
the
legs
tiny arms
that are
and
just
legs.
dangling. And they made it the guy who played Darren Cross, Yellow Jacket, in the first movie. And it is hilarious and perfect. And I have no notes. I love MODOK.
I completely agree. Kudos to them because it absolutely genuinely even fits. Because in the first movie, he did get all of his limbs crushed into his body when his suit got fucked up. So I'm like, oh shit, you genuinely came up with a reason that he's MODOK, like why he looks like that. Totally valid. Absolutely love it. Got to bring back like a villain, but like in the funniest way. Like, because Darren Cross was such a nothing villain, so it makes it so much funnier than he's MODOK.
And he's way better in this version of the role.
Yes.
He was such a milquetoast villain in the first Ant-Man movie. Like, he was fine, but he wasn't great. It was just like, oh yeah, you are a man who says things that are bad. And then in this one, it was like, oh no, you have chops as a comedic actor. You're actually funny, and you can make this pop. I thought it was just perfect.
It was just perfect, and everyone's reactions to him were perfect. Like, it's like, I think they must have actually shown them what MODOK was going to look like, or at least they looked up a comic book image because you can see what MODOK looks like. Because it's the only thing anyone reacted to properly in the quantum realm. Like, everyone else didn't seem to like know what was going to be CG'd later. Like, we don't know how to react to things, what's going to be weird, what's not going to be weird. But everyone knew what MODOK looked like. And they were like, it's got tiny little feet, we'll make fun of those. His head's real big, we'll make fun of that. But also, yeah, Darren Cross is actually doing a great job of just like really dumb jokes that are just landing, like telling Scott like you were always like a brother to me. Having just watched Ant-Man, he met Scott once, and it's when he killed him.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only time. Like, if you don't immediately remember their relationship, there was none. He didn't know Scott Lang until Scott killed him.
Yeah.
And it was, knowing that, it's so funny. You're like a brother to me. I was?
And him always saying the first thing made it so much more funny. Like, him seeing Hank and being like, it's me, your old protege. And everyone reacting by looking at him after a pause and going, Darren? Calling him Darren every time. Not Cross, not
Yellow
Darren.
Jacket, Darren.
Calling him Darren is so belittling to a supervillain. It is just, it's delectable. I love every second of it.
And absolutely the biggest laugh in the movie, I will say, is his death scene, where he says, at least I died an Avenger. This fucking killed me.
And them all just giving each other a look, and Scott having to be like,
No.
yeah, man.
Yeah. For, like, works on so many levels. Like, absolutely you didn't do enough to qualify to be an Avenger. Scott doesn't have the authority to make...
In no way.
I'm not sure he's even officially an Avenger.
He was one. He can definitely put Avenger on his resume.
Yes, former Avenger.
Yeah, but it would have to be like 2022 question mark because like he doesn't know if he is still or is not, I think.
Well, I think we don't know who's anyone on the Avengers right now. They
true.
might not exist right now,
True.
I think is also a thing. So yeah, it just, at least I died an Avenger, killed me. It was so late in the movie for a big laugh that I was so grateful.
Yeah.
I'm like, we haven't had a big laugh pretty much this whole movie. I really needed this. Thank you, MODOK. I really appreciate this.
Part of me is a little sad they didn't play the Avenger theme, and I
Like
kind
when
of
Spider-Man gets it.
yes, when Spider-Man gets knighted and they play that 3 seconds of the Avenger theme, I really kind of wanted that as a meta joke here, but it is all very, very good and delicious as it is.
I really wanted it like as he said, at least I died an Avenger, and for it just to cut out as Scott shakes his head. Like,
Yeah.
Just a little cut off would have been so funny. But yeah, he looked ridiculous. He will never be forgotten in my mind of weird things.
Yes.
And he genuinely was very funny.
I also really love the moment when Cassie beats him and is leaving, and MODOK's just like, Cassie, wait. And an exhausted Cassie, and she does a phenomenal performance of this comedic beat of her being like, what, man? Like, of her just being like, this is over. Why are you still talking to me? Their exhaustion with him as well was very, very good.
And giving him
You don't have to be a dick.
Yes, giving him the advice that just stop being a dick is one of the few things that felt like an Ant-Man movie as well. Like, it felt like very much a thing you would say in, like, a not quantum realm Ant-Man movie.
Yeah.
Just be like, Darren, just stop being a dick, man.
Just stop being a dick.
Just stop doing
Stop
it.
slicking back your hair and ordering sloppy steaks. All right? You used to be a dick.
You could be an Avenger.
People can change.
People can change, Darren.
Yeah, so I loved the MODOK stuff. That is a huge high for me of things that I liked about the movie.
Another thing, this is just a fun little late thing that I really liked. I'm really glad that Jonathan Majors as Kang absolutely was like, I need to have a fist fight and you need to see my biceps.
Popping one sleeve off.
like
Yum, yum, Jonathan Majors.
like
that'll do.
Captain America Bucky style, just being like, guys, you do not know how hard I've worked out for this. Or he probably actually worked out for Creed 3.
Yeah.
But like he's like, you guys gotta see this. I can't be in that suit the whole movie. I look incredible. Somebody burn my suit off me.
Yeah, pop that sleeve off. Here we go. Let's do it.
And it's so funny and it works so well to be like, because you're like, oh, he's a technology boy. Maybe if we get rid of his technology, Scott would be able to beat him. And it's like, oh God, no.
He is still a conqueror.
Yes, he is still physically very able to kick Scott's ass.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And Scott is a cat burglar.
Yeah.
A cat burglar, not a robber. A cat burglar.
Because a robber
implies violence.
Oh no! That's a huge thing to point out when you're supposed to win a fist fight.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's a cat burglar. I liked that one sleeve popping off. Jonathan Majors looking delicious, doing a great job with some mediocre stuff here. I think I really kind of liked like the him and Janet stuff. Again, I didn't love that Janet was necessarily the lead character, but I liked the survival relationship that they built. I bought into that.
I think my favorite scene of the movie, like as a complete scene, might have been Janet reading his mind through the ship and like seeing what he's done and like changing her mind and not letting him go. I think that scene was like, it really got to sit. It was paced really well. It was like, for an Ant-Man movie, like they're usually so kinetic and moving so fast. And this one's not especially moving fast, but this was like very slow paced with a purpose of like, these are real character beats that we're going through here. And they both knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was invested in the relationship between these two. I felt sincerely betrayed by him when she discovered all of this about him.
Yeah, like this is your only friend for years, and like just as you're about to leave, you find out he's an evil monster. Like, oof, and you have to decide not to go with him. That's rough.
Ooh, that is a tough one, and a questionable evil monster as well. Which I feel like the movie didn't really chew into enough.
It seemed like he'd personally destroyed a bunch of worlds.
Yeah, but I couldn't tell if the implication was that he destroyed worlds that were already lost to the Council of Kangs.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't that he was trying to conquer, he was trying to win against the Council.
Yeah, there's kind of a lot of politics involved there, so I would need like can I get a long article breakdown of the sides?
Something a little bit more. A little bit more. I didn't love his costuming.
I think I liked it, but like it didn't pop because like nothing popped in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
So like I liked it fine. I thought he looked pretty bad once the blue screen was on his face. I'm like, oh no, Jonathan Majors' face, please bring the face.
Please
back.
bring that back.
I don't need the blue screen thing.
Yeah, he doesn't need to be blue. I know he's blue in the comics. It's a multiversal character. He doesn't need to be blue.
I mean, I don't mind it there every now and then just to get your hit. Just to get your quick hit of the blue, but
get the quota of comic book semi-accurate stuff in there.
Yeah, you can get your stills and be like, "We did it.
Yes.
He's blue."
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't need it there. But yeah, it looked fine, but I wasn't in love with it.
I would say that like as talking about earlier how I liked the first 10 minutes of the movie, the last 10 minutes also really works as a comedian. Once he's back in reality again, I am thinking to myself to be like, but he said that they were coming. Oh no. You know what? Let's not worry about it. That like brush off in his own mind, I thought that was super fun. That was great.
That was really fun. It was just so nice again to be in open sunshine. Holy crap, that felt good on my eyes, just coming out of the screen at me. I will say, I don't think you're supposed to bring your own cake to a restaurant. I think that's pretty frowned upon. But maybe if you're Ant-Man, you're allowed to.
You get away with whatever you want to do.
You get away with whatever. You're an Avenger. You saved the world. But yeah, the end was also funny. Just this continuous, like, did I do the right thing? Who cares? Oh, shit, maybe I should have. Who cares? Really, really nice beats. Yeah, so the bookends are Ant-Man movies.
The bookends are Ant-Man movies. The bookends of the 2 days on a physical set where Paul Rudd got to interact with people in a real-world environment. That was where the movie worked the best.
It really, really did.
Yeah.
I have a few more little complaints.
Lay it on me.
Lay me on me. These are about technology things that I shouldn't complain about because it's a sci-fi action movie, but boy, did this bother me. Kang cannot figure out shrinking technology. Kang the Conqueror. He's millions of years old. He can go through the multiverse. He can destroy time, but he's like, fuck, I cannot figure out Pym particles. I can't crack this fucker.
He admits that he has killed Avengers in other universes.
He killed Thor, he says.
And he must have killed an Ant-Man at some point. Steal some Pym particles,
Well,
fucko.
this one's trapped. So I'll give him that.
This one is trapped.
I'll give him that. But like to also not just be like, I just need Ant-Man for his suit. I just need to take the Pym particles away from you. But every time someone's captured, the Pym particles, the suits, and the little discs are not taken away from them.
Yeah.
They're just put in cells in their super suits. Don't take those away, Kang. Not the things that they kill you with and fight you with. So yeah, I am just like, Thanos figured out shrinking technology in like 2 days in Endgame. I'm just saying.
And shrinking technology and time travel.
And
all of
time
it.
travel. Kang has been there at least 20 years.
Yeah.
And he has not figured out how to unshrink his MacGuffin.
No, this Kang's not good at that,
And
apparently.
that just bothered me a lot.
Okay.
It made me think less of Kang.
Well, you know what? While we're closing up with a few nitpicks, may I now tag in for a quick one?
Nitpick me.
The reveal of Cassie's costume. So disappointing, because it was visual trash. It was nothing. You could barely see it. It was so dark and muddled and had no color or life.
Absolutely.
And was also the exact same costume as the other two, so who gives a shit? But they also revealed it before they revealed it. Like earlier in the dinner scene, it was like, she was like, I have a costume. And it was like, you gave her a costume? And it was like, maybe we gave her a costume. Okay, we gave her a costume. And then she just runs away from danger and lets Scott do things for a bunch. And then we have this like the music swells and she reveals it and does the thing. And she's like, I have a costume. And the movie sits on that. I'm like, yeah, we know you said it aloud earlier.
It was in the opening part that was a real Ant-Man movie. And also, why didn't you use it in the first danger scene? Like, you don't even have to fight, but just, like, it's so much easier to get away from danger when you're tiny.
Yeah, not only was it contrived that you didn't use it and then revealed it for the sake of a reveal, you also verbally showed us and told us your cards earlier. So no one gives a fuck at this point.
No, we all know you have a costume.
Yeah, you came out and said, I have a costume.
And then it's like the blandest of the three. Because I do like that Hope's is yellow now. Hope's is actually popping a little bit more.
I agree with that.
It's still kind of like just like the quantum realm is just so weird looking, but I think like a set in real world version of this costume looks great.
I think it would look a little better.
I like how bright and yellow it is. Scott's costume's been amazing from day one.
Yeah, it works.
The red fading into ombre look, like it looks great. And then hers is easily the least impressive of the three, and they saved it for a reveal, and it's like, okay.
Okay, sure.
Sure.
So that's a quick nitpick from me. Back to you. I know you said you had a couple of nitpicks there.
What were my other one was the costumes, that everyone gets to keep your costume.
Yes. Okay. That is a big one.
My other nitpick is like, where do these people come from?
Which people? The people who live down there?
The people who live there. Because Janet and Kang were both like, fuck, this place is desolate. We only have each other for years. For years it was just the two of them.
Right.
And so then Janet like takes off and suddenly there's thousands of people?
Civilizations?
Yeah, where did you guys just not walk far enough to like find somebody? I don't understand what's happening here.
I also agree
Like
with that.
not even just people, cities, like societies, multiples of them.
And these are lesser cities because their cities have been sacked from what we've been told.
Yeah, like the buildings are alive that people live in. Like this is Kang City that he's built apparently. But like yeah, there should be cities all over the place. Like the quantum realm apparently is just settled. It's people live there.
Yeah, but I guess Michelle Pfeiffer did meet some people at some point because she had a romance with Bill Murray, I guess, at one point.
Well, no, that was later because they fought Kang together.
Oh, I guess post-Kang. Yeah, okay.
So pre-Kang, there didn't seem to be anyone there.
Yeah, they just didn't make it far enough,
And I don't know
suppose.
if Kang just found people.
I guess once you can hover and fly and shit, maybe.
You can just spot them.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I got a little higher. Now I can see him, I guess. And I don't like them. I'm mean.
I don't. I've decided to be
I'm
mean.
hovering a little, and I can see a little bit further down. I see there's a dude gently over there. I'm going to cause some trouble for that guy.
I got nothing else to
I
do.
got nothing else going on. I got nothing but time.
I can't leave. My MacGuffin's too big now.
I'm Kang.
I don't know how to shrink things.
I'll throw that down as another nitpick. The Bill Murray side story of, I had a love interest. Oh no, I've been betrayed. Let's leave and kind of be at the exact place we were before the scene began. This provided no information or character growth. It was really just a waste of time and kind of 15 minutes to get a Bill Murray cameo and no other purpose, meaning, or anything.
That is doubly upsetting because, yes, no purpose, no meaning, didn't need anything in that scene except the Bill Murray cameo. And then Bill Murray didn't even knock it out of the park in any way. He was totally nothing.
He was very bland.
He was very bland. This wasn't even like a Bill Murray showcase. He's like, I'm going to be there for one day and I'm going to nail it. We're going to come up with something great.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's just he's there and he's like, I've got a cape. But he doesn't even have a cape, though.
He doesn't even quite.
I shouldn't even bring up that he had a cape because he didn't move like a man.
Yeah. For those of you who didn't see the movie, we're not trying to make it sound like he was Lando Calrissian. He was just a dude who had some cloth around him.
Yes. His clothing was cloth.
It was kind of bland.
Was kind of bland. Yeah.
Yeah, a really forgettable, easily deletable scene for what I would imagine would have been an expensive cameo.
Yeah.
And just can easily be deleted because it doesn't move anything forward in any way.
No, it doesn't. And it doesn't it doesn't impact the plot. Like it doesn't like break Hank and Janet apart for a while. He's just like, no, I get it. You were alone. It's cool. I went on some dates. Like it doesn't do anything to the relationships. Yeah. I mean, in a way, it proves that those they are great together.
Oh, I like that.
I like that Hank and Janet were just like, well, yeah, I was gone for 30 years.
Come on,
man. Yeah, I'm sure you dated and Hope doesn't want to hear it, which was kind of cute.
Yeah, that was kind of cute. Yeah. I will say, to circle back to one quick positive, I kind of liked the probability matrix of the different Scotts working together as ants. I thought that was cute when it's he's seeing every probability of himself and they're all freaking out. Some are getting killed. And then they decide they all want the same thing and create this ant mountain to climb over one another. I thought that was actually pretty sweet.
I absolutely, genuinely had this as my last positive note to bring up as well. It was the probability storm as a whole maybe didn't completely work, but this moment of how are we going to do it? And it's we all love Cassie and we all want to succeed for her is actually really nice and very Scott.
Every potential probability of him loves Cassie.
Yes, so they all work together to get him up there. And then just the one Baskin-Robbins Scott was funny.
That's very funny.
And whoever in the background yelled out, "Do you have ice cream?" was so funny.
Very good.
Very subtle joke that happens in the background. But yeah, it's actually genuinely touching. And you're Scott is a hero. He can focus when he needs to. He finds the heart to succeed.
Yeah.
So this might be his greatest moment. It's not the fist fight with Kang at the end.
No.
It is definitely this moment when he works together with every possible version of himself.
And it circles back to to Scott being a hero on a small scale day to day. I'm just a good person who loves my family. And
loves his family
just
dog.
Loves the shit out of his family dog. So I liked the probability matrix. But that is it for me. I'm feeling good. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty anted out.
Excellent.
I feel like I got all of the ants out of my pants.
Well, now that the ants are out of your pants, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this movie if you could change anything? Before we do, ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a minute to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcast Addict, wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us move up the charts. It helps us find new listeners. Then when new listeners find us, they read those reviews. Positive reviews make it more likely that people will actually give us a shot and hit download that first time and maybe hit subscribe. So leaving a positive review, it's how we grow and expand as a podcast.
It's how we turn into Giant Man instead of just regular sized Ant-Man. We like to get bigger, to grow. They warm our hearts. It's so easy. It's free. We would really, really appreciate it if you could take the time to leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this.
Yeah, and do it for a couple of your favorite podcasts because it makes a big difference to every podcast that you listen to. That's why you hear so many of us tell you to do it.
Even on Spotify, you can't leave a review, but you can leave 5 stars.
You can leave star ratings on Spotify, and that's a big help too. And as well, if you do want to support the podcast monetarily and get cool bonuses for it, you can check us out over on Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service. You can subscribe at whatever level is in your budget. So depending on your monetary, needs and flow, whatever you have going on, you can find something that fits you. You can do $1 a month. If you do $1 a month, you get our webcomic a day early. So you're in front of the advanced crowd. You get the advanced screening of everything if you're doing $1 a month.
You get to laugh before anyone else gets to laugh, except the other patrons. But you get to laugh before the general populace gets to laugh.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And those dollars, it might seem silly or might not seem like a lot to you, but those dollars add up and they really keep the network going and help us grow and expand and make sure that everything here is running properly the way it should. And as well, if you do other levels, different levels have different bonuses. At the $10 hero level, you get a bonus episode of this podcast every single month. This month, we did Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
One kid blown up. So we did one big movie to go with all our small movies. So we mixed it up on the Patreon.
We had to contrast it a little bit. So that is available right now over on the Patreon. Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. That's this month's exclusive. And if you sign up at the hero level, you get immediate access to the full back catalog as well. So check it out over at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. If it's in your budget, if it's not, we understand. But if you have $1 to kick in, go check it out or have a look anyway. It's free to look. Patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. patreon.com/fromsuperheroes.
It's free to look. What a great attitude.
It's free to look.
You can check it out, see if you like it.
You can just type in that website.
No
and
obligation.
You can just see what it's all about on your own time without me having to tell it to you. Check it out.
Love it.
Love it. Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
My big change is that the opening's going to be pretty much the same. I actually, we discussed not liking it, but I'm going to keep in the part where Cassie is like, Dad, you're not helping people anymore. My biggest change is going to be Cassie does not go to the quantum realm. I think because Cassie's there, this whole movie is just Scott yelling, Cassie, 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 and not doing any jokes and not having any fun and just being too worried about his daughter. I think the character's been aged too young for it to be fun that she's there. She's not even that young, but just the scene where she's kind of tortured, it's not cool. So Cassie doesn't go. I think she might still be in contact with him over the radio they've made, over the little voice radio, so she can kind of be involved that way. But with Cassie not there, I'm still going to split them up, and Hope and Scott are together, and Hank and Janet are together. And Hank and Scott and Hope run into all these freedom fighters and become really good friends with them. And they all get captured together, and Kang's like, I'm going to kill all these cool freedom fighters you like if you don't help me. He's not going to threaten his daughter. He's still going to be fun. He'd be like, well, they're adults, but I still don't want them all to be killed. And it just kind of makes it, there's more fun to be had this way, I think. Scott can really kick loose if it's just him and Hope, who are both superheroes. They absolutely will be like, we are going to help these people. My daughter's right. Maybe I got to do more. And there just will be no hesitation. And he can be such a clearer hero without her there. I think she is really pulling back everything Scott can do by being there because he's a dad overall and he just wants her safe. So I think Hank and Janet can just still have their full adventures without Hope there. Hope and Scott are together and they're with the freedom fighters, and the freedom fighters are just in it a lot more. They're all captured together, they fight together, they break out together. So we get the fun guys not getting kicked off the screen immediately as soon as they're introduced. And I think that's going to pep up the energy and make it a lot more fun and make it more of a joke factory.
Interesting. So just two duos.
Just two duos. Cassie's in the beginning and kind of gives him the theme of the movie, which is help people who need help. And maybe is saying things through the radio, then they can still hear her through her little quantum signaler, but she's not physically there. She's not in danger. That's my biggest change.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's bold, but I think it would make a totally different movie. Scott would be a different man without Cassie there.
Wow. I like that. I like that a lot.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. I'm trying to process it because I like it. Mine is a different wavelength.
Okay.
But it's
of
not.
course.
But it's not to disagree with you. It's just that I went a different thought in terms of how I.
Oh, my change is always different than your change. You're starting with the movie fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Forget what I just said.
Okay.
What would you change?
Well, I can't forget what you just said. It is great. I agree with it. I think one of the things that I would like is, first of all, we've got to get the crew back.
I miss the crew.
We've got to bring back the crew, and also just the comedy of having the crew who, as much as Scott is the everyman in an Avengers movie, the crew is an everyman with Scott. They're even more everyman than the everyman, which I really like that dynamic and that dichotomy. And even though the CGI world has no sense of wonder, if you had Michael Pena there, spicing it up, adding a sense of wonder, adding a I never got to be small. I got to drive a car once. Him getting to do that type of energy and hype, I think would be great.
If he got to do one of those the flashbacky things he does, but for MODOK.
Yes.
If he got to do it for Kang.
Oh my god.
If he did a Kang flashback. In the way he does those, oh my god, I would have died.
Yeah, that would be so phenomenal. And it's insulting to series regulars to not get to come back. I know that that one of them did. The one who plays the Russian got to voice, I think, like the gooey blob or whatever.
That's not the same thing.
It's not the same. And yeah, I really do think that the crew should be back. And to kind of combine with that, I think that there needs to be and this is a classic storytelling device of a meet in the middle of I'm the cautious one. I'm the wild card. By the end of the movie, I learn to be the cautious one learns to be a bit wilder. The wild one learns to be a bit more cautious. So this generational divide between kind of Cassie and Scott, of Cassie being like, you're not being a hero anymore, and him being like, you need to be safe. I need you to be safe. That's the most important thing. And they're kind of butting heads over that. I think that if the crew was there, they could help teach Cassie why he's like that, to be like, we don't love Scott because he saved the world. We love Scott because he changed our lives. He's always there for us. Like, he cares so much about this job. Like, he did crime when we needed him to do crime. He got us legitimate jobs when we needed legitimate jobs. Like, this guy loves the people that he loved. That's why we love Scott. We don't love him because he's an Avenger. And I think that if the crew was there, you could really have that. Like a bunch of best friends who are just like, we couldn't give one less of a shit if he's an Avenger. Do you realize what an amazing person Scott is? And I think teaching Cassie that, while Cassie does have to edge her dad back a little bit to be like, you do need to take chances. You took more chances when you were younger, and I know you have more to lose now, but you still need to be a little bit wilder. But then also her meeting in the middle to be like, but I understand why you need to be a bit safer, of her maybe learning the lesson to be like, I need to be a hero, but I can't risk the people that I love while I try to do it. And doing this right now, I sent a probe in. I've risked Janet. I risked my dad running into this battle. And I think that if the crew was there, then suddenly now we have this two sides of Scott's life. Of the daughter who's like, I missed you, and you're a figure of heroism. And the friends being like, he's a figure of a best friend. That's what he is.
I love this, because the crew was friends with him before he ever had the suit.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, we just like Scott.
Yeah.
We just love this guy. I love this change. Of course the crew has to be there. And they would probably join up with the freedom fighters, become best friends with all those guys. It would be a wonderful time.
And they would probably remind Cassie of what he was like when she was a kid. Because sure, she remembers a lot of that, but some of it's got to get foggy. And 5 years of blip trauma, I'm sure, is more prevalent in your developmental needs. But for them to be like, do you realize how hard he was working all of the time, in order to do this? At one point he was in the quantum realm, and he was worried about getting home to check his ankle bracelet because he couldn't be on house arrest and be with you as much as he wanted to be. That was the most I want that. I want that.
I get it. Yeah, you want that connection to Scott's life, and you want lessons, and you want familiarity, and you also just like the fun of the crew.
The fun of the crew.
Fun of the crew.
That adds more comedy, and it adds a nice meet in the middle lesson of it all. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, just let them get sucked in.
Let
them get sucked into the quantum zone.
Let them all get sucked in, sucked down.
Oh, no.
No?
No, maybe not that. It's a family film.
All right. They're all blown in.
No. It's a family film.
It's a family film. They all get small.
They all get small.
They all get small. But I still love your idea. I know mine is kind of counterintuitive to yours.
They don't have to work together. It's a totally different change.
But it does always feel nice when our ideas work together.
I just feel like the freedom fighters on their own could be funny enough if they had more screen time and more interaction with a Scott that doesn't have Cassie with him.
I agree with that. They had some great performers in the Freedom
Yeah.
Fighters.
So
Well,
I love this change though.
I love yours. Well, that is it. I think we fixed it. Next week we will be back on the podcast. We're going to close off a real small month. It's one last small one. They don't shrink small, but they're small.
But they are small.
So just to have a goof, we're talking about Osmosis Jones.
We're going to talk about
next
Osmosis
week.
Jones. I think has Bill Murray in it.
I believe it does.
I think he's the human.
So we'll be talking about that next week on the podcast. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can reach me on Instagram at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me at Words of Diana on Twitter.
And you can find both of us most places at From Superheroes. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.